So it's winter here in Canada. It's really, really cold and everyone runs winter tires. And I want to do an experiment. Two winters ago, when I first got this car, I got pretty much the cheapest winter tires I can get, which at the time were the Falken EuroWinters. This is a good tire. It never let me down in terms of grip, but it's kind of noisy and there's a lot more energy consumption. I want to do an experiment. What happens if we compare consumption of this tire versus an EV optimized tire? Is there going to be a difference? I think there might be, because 2 months ago I did a road trip from wintry Canada to North Carolina, which is a lot more mild. And I noticed my consumption was up about 20% versus my summer road trips. And at the end of the day, when I was in the milder climate, my consumption was only about 10% extra versus 20. So I'm thinking 10% of the energy goes to the cold weather, and the other 10% goes to the winter tire package, the tire and wheel combination. So the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a lot of experiments for this video. Benchmarking the standard winter tire, which has, as far as I could tell, no EV optimization at all, versus I have a new set of Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5 EVs. And these are optimized for EVs. You can see there's foam inserts for noise. And also the construction here is a bit upgraded for more torque and less rolling resistance versus a traditional winter tire. So I'm very curious to see how this does. I'm going to be doing some runs on these. I'm going to break these in and then repeat the conditions as best I can to get a benchmark for these tires. Let's go into the testing setup for this experiment now that I'm done. I have a 54-kilometer highway style loop test that I did at 120 kilometers per hour. So it's about a 30-mile highway loop done at about 74 miles per hour. And ideally, of course, I would have two cars run side by side each and every single day and gather those measurements. But in the real world, I have one car. So I had to do several runs on my old Falken tire, measure those results, swap over to the new tire, break in the new tires, and then repeat the experiment as best I could in as similar conditions as I could. What I've made sure to do is HVAC was manually set to 20 degrees Celsius every single time. There was no preconditioning of the battery pack and no supercharging, because we know that a warmer drivetrain is a more efficient drivetrain. I've made sure in service mode to see the temperature was always between 10 and 12 degrees Celsius, so a cold battery to start. And tire pressures were also set to about 40 psi before the start. So basically, I would take a cold car from my garage, do the test, measure the results, and come back. Coming up to a gradual stop here. Test number 4, releasing kinetic energy. Gonna take the measurement as we come to a stop. 254 watt-hours per kilometer. Wow. So those were the testing conditions. Let's jump into my spreadsheet and I'll walk you through some of the results that I saw in the last month. So you're going to see here we have a total of 6 tests. I did 3 data points with the Falken tires and 3 with the Nokian Hakkapeliitta R5 EVs. I had even more runs, but I had to discard some runs because of traffic conditions or just weather outliers. But these 6 I think are the most representative, the most comparable. But you're also going to see that none of them are exactly the same going day to day, because it's just impossible in the real world. But I have here 2 pairs that I think are most directly comparable for a fair experiment. First, I have here test number 2 and number 6. So here, this is like a milder winter day here in Canada, -6 degrees Celsius versus -4 degrees Celsius. And wind speeds are also like between 10 and 12 kilometers per hour. Again, similar conditions. And we went from 263 watt-hours per kilometer to 246. That represents about a 6.5% improvement in lower energy consumption per kilometer. I think that is pretty impressive, but what's more impressive here is that this second test here on the Nokians was actually, because it was slightly warmer, I actually saw some damp asphalt because there was some snow melt coming onto the road. And we know that a wet road is actually less efficient to drive on than a dry road. So there could be even more improvement to be had here if it was dry road versus dry road. My second pairing here in blue was on like a colder, more representative day around here, -8 degrees Celsius versus -10. And wind speeds are also within 4 kilometers per hour of each other. And here we saw consumption go from 271 watt hours per kilometer to 254, which is another 5.9% improvement. And I think that is also very impressive. Like if you can get 5 to 6% lower consumption and 5 to 6% more range just by going with a more efficient winter tire, I think that's a pretty good deal. Especially if you're using more supercharging or more DC fast charging. If your energy costs are more expensive, you can really benefit from a more efficient winter tire. I should also note here that kind of all of my consumption numbers, whether you look at per kilometer or per mile, they're gonna look quite high. If you drive EVs and you look at my numbers, you're gonna think, okay, this looks pretty high. But this experiment was designed to be difficult. We had a winter highway run on a very cold car and a cold battery. So that's why the consumption numbers are high, but I needed to set a high baseline so then I could more easily measure any improvements if there was one. Because I can't really report on decimal points, I needed to use whole numbers. But I did see an improvement of 5 to 6% between the most comparable data points. And also, like, anecdotally, there is a drive that I do 2-3 times a week here from the suburbs to downtown Toronto, and it would normally take maybe 14% on a regular winter day. But ever switched, I changed to the Nokian Hakkapeliittas, I saw that I'm usually spending maybe 13% of battery. The EV optimization, the lower rolling resistance, is actually working, and I am very impressed. The winter here is going to be done in a couple of weeks, and I will have a follow-up video of my overall impressions of how these tires performed this winter. So look forward to that. But so far I'm impressed with the better kind of like energy consumption performance of these Nokians, and I think I can easily recommend them to friends and family. And I think that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.